Everyone, welcome back to Shruti's Academy. So today we are going to study about the characteristics of MIS. Let's start. Now, talking about the various characteristics of MIS, number one thing is your comprehensiveness. Comprehensiveness basically means something which includes all the things. It's a very broad-minded approach. Okay, comprehensive approach is like it's a broad-minded approach. It includes almost all the things related to it. All right. So MIS is very comprehensive in nature because it takes inputs from the transactions processing systems and processes the information primarily for managers at all levels. Okay, so it is going to take inputs from all the levels of the managers and it kind of gives information to all of them. So that's why it's a very comprehensive approach. It's because it is taking the data from levels and it is giving information to all the levels. Now coming to the next point, that is coordinated. Coordinated, why? Because see, MIS cannot work on a single department. Say MIS has to have a very coordinated approach with the entire company. It's not like only the marketing department or only the production department which can work on its own. MIS has to have the entire picture of the company in mind, and all the departments, all the sub departments, all the levels have to be properly integrated and coordinated with the system. Then only it can be effective. The next is your subsystem. It is composed of subsystems or quasi-separate component system that is a part of the overall unified system. They serve the goals of the management information system of the organization, where some of the systems serve just one activity or level in the organization, where others serve multi-levels or multiple activities. So MIS cannot just be one system, okay? It is not just one centrally located system. It has to have an approach where it has a lot of subsystems under it, okay? Like for example, the entire system includes top, middle and lower level. But it should have certain subsystems within it. Like for example, for the middle level managers also, there are different departments. Okay, so in that different departments, there could be different activities. Like for example, one could be a sales activity, one could be a marketing activity. So all that has to be properly defined. Proper subsystems have to be there. And all these subsystems have to be integrated in a proper way. Data integration in this MIS is very, very important because whenever we get the data, it is feeded in the system. There should be a certain system where the data is properly integrated at all levels so that the human intervention is not there. Okay, like say for example, there's a school where there are 1,000 students. In that 1,000 students, say 800 of them order lunch. Okay, the lunch is provided by school, so they need to order that separately. Now, whenever these students, whenever they enter, the entire details of all the systems should automatically be feeded into the MIS system. So whenever the catering department opens that system, it can see which students has ordered what varieties. It does not have to do it manually for everyone. Okay, because when you open the system, if a student has ordered a lunch for that day, then the entire details of that student should be integrated with that catering department also. So that is why integration is very important. Subsystems of MIS are integrated so that the activities of each are interrelated with those that of the other. They make information processing more efficient by reducing both intermediate processing and incidence of independent generation of the same data by multiple departments in providing more timely, complete and relevant information. Now there are various departments. Okay, it will not really, what it will do is it will not give the same data to all the departments. Data is given to that department which needs that data. Okay, say for example, you have 100 employees in a company. Now if you have 100 employees, there are a lot of details about the employees which is there in our system, but the accounts team or the team which kind of handles the payments of all the employees, that needs the information like how many hours the employee worked, what were the sick leaves taken, what were the late hours, how many projects handled, etc. So this information is only shared with that department. The rest of the information about the birthdays or anniversaries need not be shared with that department. That could be shared with the HR department, for example. So that is why over here what they are trying to tell you is that independent generation of same data by multiple departments Yeah, it reduces the both intermediate processing and this both the department, multiple departments handling the same data. So what happens is when the employee comes, the entire thing is feeded, and the same information can be shared by all the departments. It need not have separate information for separate departments. So there are certain things which is common which can be shared with everyone. As I told you in the catering example, all the students' details, the same details which the school has, can be shared by the catering team also. It need not have a separate data again for a department. Now coming to the next part, that is the transformation of data into information. MIS transforms data into information in a variety of ways. Data is processed and it is useful to a particular manager for a particular purpose. It becomes information. Okay, because all the data is not required by all the managers. Everyone requires only a certain amount of data. So when what data they need, that is presented in a proper way, in a proper format, that is known as information for them. The next point is your enhances productivity. Definitely it enhances productivity. Why? Because basic routine work which is to be done, say applying for a leave or approving the leave of an employee, those kind of things can be done very easily through this MIS. It kind of the same routine task. Now it can be done much more efficiently. You don't need to have to type it again and again because all the information has been fed into the MIS system. So whenever there is any employee, when you click on that, you get all the information with regards to that employee. You don't have to do any extra work. Apart from that, also, if there is any problem which may crop up or any kind of opportunity that might come, all that is easily announced through this MIS system. So the manager's productivity really increases because of this MIS system. Now coming to conforms to manager's style and characteristics. This is developed considering the unique managerial styles and behavioral pattern of the personnel who use it. At the organization more senior levels, this MIS is likely to be carefully tailored to each individual's manager's personal taste. At the organization lowest levels, it is likely to be tailored to the unusual way in which clerical and personal people use this information. Middle management, it is tailored to the general characteristics of management. So basically what they are trying to say is that depending on the level with which that information is shared, it would be presented or tailored in that manner. Like the top level people want the information which is more external in nature. They want the information which will help them to decide about the policies of the company. However, the operational level managers would not want that kind of information. To them, the information is more basic, like when did the employee buy from you last, what is the date of birth of the employee, so they could be sent a birthday wish, for example. So these are the type of data which is shared depending on the level of the management. Now next is your MIS must be designed to the required tolerance for timeliness, relevance, accuracy of information. These vary from task to task and level to level. So we use whatever is depending on that level. Feedback. They have to provide feedback about the efficiency and effectiveness. If there is any malfunction in the computer, if the data is not showing properly, if the information is missing, lacking, there is some problem with the presentation of the information, then those kind of feedback is included in the report. It includes reports such as how much computer time is used by each user, how many pages are printed for each user, and how much internal data file space is used by each user's data. So this is a very interesting thing. Like for example, these are the kind of details which this MIS system can give you, like how much data is used in your computer, that is your employee's computer, how many pages on a daily basis is being printed. So this kind of feedback can also be given by the MIS system. Next is that it is very flexible. However, if there's any new activity which the organization is doing or any new product, you can make changes in the system to adapt to the recent trend that is going on. You can have as many subsystems. There is no need, there's no requirement like there should be only one system or 4 subsystems. You can have as many subsystems as required for this MIS. The most interesting part which I found was the selective sharing of data, which I have briefly discussed above already. The selective sharing of data works, as I told you, top level of management do not need information about the marital status of employees or how many hours the employees have worked, right? that would be required by the payroll department, by the department who's going to settle the payments for all the employees. So they need to understand how many hours he worked, when he came late, how many projects he worked, whether he did any overtime, and so on. However, this information is not really required by the HR department. HR department would just be happy knowing the birthdays and anniversaries of the employee or the marital status of the employees. So this selective sharing of data is an amazing feature of MIS, because you can share from you already have the complete data of the employee, okay? And from that, you can share the data which is required with particular departments, okay? Not all the departments require all the data. So depending on which department requires what data, only that can be shared with them. Next is, most of the time MIS uses a computer. However, it can be done without a computer also. It is possible to have an MIS without a computer, but use of computer increases the efficiency. Equips MIS to handle necessary attributes of the computer to MIS, like accuracy and consistency. Yes, of course. If the data volume is very huge, it is difficult to handle it without a computer. So it is always much more accurate, much more easier and faster to process the data when everything is on the computer. So guys, these were all the characteristics of your MIS. The most important being, I felt, was it is comprehensive. The selective sharing of data, which was very important, I felt. And next is your feedback. And another thing which I felt was important was it confirms to the manager's styles and characteristics. Every manager can have its own style and characteristics in how the data should be presented to them. Okay, so this is the last and the final video for your MIS and this chapter. In this, we are going to understand about the basic requirements and the limitations of MIS. All right, so let's start. So what are the basic requirements that is there for having an MIS system? The first and foremost thing, like it is there for everything, is the hardware. Without hardware, nothing is possible, right? For example, say me and you, we both are talking to each other in this class right now. It's possible because I have a laptop and webcam in front of me, and you are also probably seeing this video on your laptop or your mobile, right? So hardware is the most important thing. Similarly, for MIS, the first thing that is important is the hardware. The hardware must provide the 5 basic functions, that is your input of data entry, the output, the secondary storage, the central processor, and the communication system. Okay, so because we are having a system where we are going to feed data which is going to turn into information, first we need to have a hardware on how are we going to feed the data into the system. Okay, so it could be through the computers manually typing all the data, or anything that we get on the email forms, extracting the data out of it through your computers. That is your hardware which you need for input of data. Once that input of data is complete, second thing is how the data is going to be converted to output. The output could be in the form of, say, Excel sheets or pie diagrams or any kind of other format. Okay, so that is how the output is going to be. Then you need to have secondary storage of data. You cannot risk having all your data stored on only one place. Okay, so like for example, everything, if it's stored on one computer and the computer crashes, you lose out on valuable data. So most of the time people store it on cloud these days. So you need to have some secondary storage. For hardware, it could be something like a pen drive or a hard disk where you store it. And another is your central processing system, the main processor where the entire thing is connected from. Okay, so that is the 4 things. The 5th thing is your communication. How is the communication happening? So for that also we need certain hardware for the communication. It could be telephone, it could be so how you're collecting the input, so all those kind of things. Then the next important thing, once the hardware is set up, you need to have a software to run the entire thing. Correct? So now, since as I told you for our class example, I'm having a laptop and webcam as a hardware, you would be having a mobile or a laptop as a hardware to be seeing it. But then we need a software, right? So you have downloaded my app, and that is the software on which you are going to see everything. The software is like Word, where I'm sharing the screen. This entire thing is recorded on another software, another application. Okay, and then when I show you the mind maps, that is another software which I use to edit the videos. That's another software. Okay, so there has to be a combination of hardware and software that we do. In this, the software that is required is application of programs and direct operation of hardware, and software is required are system software and application software. So one is your system software, whatever software that you're using onto the system. Another thing is when you have to use certain applications. Okay, like for me, the applications which I'm using is Zoom, MindMeister to create the mind maps, the Word. So these are the softwares. There are two types of software, guys. One is your system software, the software which is in your system, that is your Windows, or it could be whatever else it is there. So one is your system software, the another one is your application software. So both these in combination give us a seamless experience. Then the third part is your database. The database contains all the data which is utilized by the application software and included set of stored data, which is often referred to as the file. The physical existence of the stored data is known as database. Now, there are three things in this which you need to understand. All right. The first thing is that the database is containing all the data which the applications will use. Okay, whatever application you are going to use, the application software that you're going to use, the input data which you will feed into that application, that should be ready in the database. Okay, for example, I'm going to put up a Excel sheet. Okay, and people who have already purchased my course through the payment gateway, I get a list of their emails, names, phone numbers, etc. So that how it happens is that database is there. Okay, the database is already over there, and that is to be feeded into the application if I want to send you some automatic emails, for example. Okay, so whoever has enrolled for my course, I send them automatic emails. For that, in the application software, in the software for the email, the data has to be fed. So that is the first thing. Whatever application you use, the database should be there to feed into that application. Second thing is an included set of stored data, which is often referred to as file. So whatever other data that you are saving, say if I have data of my students who have passed class 12th in the previous year. So that is your, when already that data is stored in a physical format of an Excel sheet or whatever it is known as a file, which is there on my system. Okay. The third thing is the physical existence of the stored data is known as database. Now, whenever you have all this data with you and you have physically stored it does not mean let's store it on pen or paper. Okay. Physically stored it means it's stored in your computer, in your Excel sheet or a Google form sheet or whatever it is. So that is your database. When actually the data is saved in some form, in the physical form, it is a database. All right. So please remember this definition of database. This is important. The next step is your procedures. Now, what happens is your hardware is there, your software is there, you have a database. Now, what kind of procedures you have to implement to set up this MIS system? The first thing is your formal operating procedures are physical components because they exist in a physical form, from such a manual or instruction booklet. A physical form it will be, I'm sorry. Yeah. Physical form such as a manual instruction booklet. Basically, three major type of procedures are required. Okay. So what they are trying to say over here is we need basically three kinds of procedures. Okay. One is the people who are going to use the application. All right. So for them, there should be some user instructions. Like whenever we buy anything or any software, we get one in like booklet kind of a thing, no? Where all the information is given, the manual we call it. So that kind of a procedure is required. How the users of the application are going to use that information. Then the second thing what is important is that instruction should be there for the people who are going to input the data. Okay, the person who's gonna prepare the entire data. So they would need the people who are feeding the data, preparing the data into the information. They would need instructions on how it has to be done. Okay, the raw data, whether it should be presented in a pie chart or in what format it has to be presented, whether you need the past 6 months data or whether you need a comparison of this year and with the previous year 6 months data. All that kind of procedures have to be told. The last is the people, the computer operations people, people who are gonna operate the system. How are they going to do it? The set of instructions for them, the procedure for them on how to carry out this system. So that is your procedures. The last part is your operation personnel. Of course, Everything is set, but ultimately you need human to run it, right? How much ever the machines are there, end of the day, you need a human to run things, right? I mean, yes, artificial intelligence is coming up in a big way, but still there are certain things which can be done by humans only, right? So hardware is set, software is set, you have settled the procedures, and you have also settled your database. Now what has to be done is you need humans to run it. So we need operation personnel to run the systems, to run the programs, or to feed the data. So this is all about your basic requirements of MIS, guys. Hardware, you need a software, you need database, you need procedures, and you need personnel, the people to run it. Now let's go to the limitations of MIS. The limitations is, now what happens is, see, in this, that see, MIS is it cannot be like a one step solution. Okay, the top management do get this MIS, but ultimately the decisions has to be made by the top management. It is just a tool which is helping. Ultimate decision has to be taken by you, and the information cannot really give the decision. It is just one of the tools which can help you to take the decision. All right, so this is one of the major limitation of MIS. So the quality is governed by the quality of input and process. Okay, the first limitation is that what the information is, it is totally dependent on what the data is being fed. In case the data which is being fed is not important, it's crap data. Okay, so what happens is the system, the information itself is not valid. It's crap basically, right? So that is why the entire quality is just dependent on the input of data. Hence, it's not a very foolproof system, because the input of data is done by people on the field. If any mistake over there, then basically we do not get a correct picture of information. And hence, the decisions could be wrong also, taken just on the basis of these information systems. It cannot replace managerial judgment. Definitely, it cannot replace the judgment. Okay, the decisions which the management has to take cannot totally be dependent on this information only, because this cannot really tell you where the future is heading. It can tell you that yes, generally every year, this month there is a spike in the sales, all right? But that doesn't guarantee that it will happen this year also. Take the example of 2020 itself. I mean, no one could imagine what this world has come to, from March ending, from the time first lockdown started, and they're just, the entire economy has gone, not just India, the world's economy has turned upside down. No one could predict such a thing. So information cannot really replace managerial judgment. Okay, and if we could only be dependent on this information and take judgments without understanding how the situation is unfolding in this COVID times, then you cannot really depend on that data. Management has to use its judgment power. Okay, so that is one of the negative part. Then yes, it is a fast changing and complex environment. Business world is fastest changing, and this data, it is a little old. It always comes from historical perspective, so you cannot always depend on it. Next is, it only takes into account quantitative factor. That is the problem with most of the systems. Okay, see, the world and the business does not always run on quantitative factors. You cannot always judge about the business with regards to the turnover and profits. Okay, there are a lot of other factors. The most important factor being, how is the morale of the employees? How motivated are the employees? How dedicated are the employees? How connected they feel to the organization. I would just like to tell you one important example for this. This is more like a story which just came to my mind. That was, if most of you remember this Taj bomb blast that had happened in Mumbai. Okay, it was a really sad situation, right? But do you know what? One thing that stood out was that none of the employees of Taj, none of the employees, okay, I get goosebumps when I talk about this. None of the employees went away, they ran away. They could have run away, because being the employees of that hotel, they knew most of the exit routes. They knew most of the passages which not everyone knew. So if they wanted, they could have just run away, leaving the guests, over there. Most of the employees could have run away. However, not even a single employee had left the place, because they had this feeling in them that they are supposed to be taking care of their guests. They cannot leave the guests in a situation like this when terrorists have attacked and leave. And the employees were wonderfully helpful. Okay, they helped the guests till the last moment. They helped the guests till, like, with providing of food, with making, with hiding them, or there were people who were there in the hotels who used to keep the curtains open and they were hiding under the beds, because when the terrorists were doing wrong, they used to be hiding under the beds to make it seem as if the room, there was no one in the room. Okay, and they used to be drinking tap water, right? And these, I'm talking of people who were like rich class. Now, why did this happen? Why did none of the employees of Taj leave the place? One of the important reasons, it's a personal decision. I mean, sorry, it's a personal opinion. Okay, all these employees, most of them were from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Now, people who are in tier 2 and tier 3 cities still have a higher level of morality than in tier 1 cities. I'm sorry to say this, I myself am from a metropolitan city, but this is a fact, because in the metropolitan cities, people are more cutthroat. Okay, their entire bringing up is a little different. But however, in tier 2 and 3, I'm talking of majority. Okay, tier 2 and 3, people still hold a lot of value about to their employer. They take their employer as, like, if I start working for him, I will start working for him till the end of my life. That is the morals and policies they have. That is the heart of gold that these people have. In fact, even in our business, okay, in my dad's business, they have a huge business, and all the employees who have been there, they have been there from the time I was born. Okay, and they served there till they were retiring. Okay, and we don't see that anymore. Okay, there's this job hopping is very common these days. So this morale system is very important, which is, I feel, required. Now, in this MIS system, we can never really judge or input any data with regards to morale. How do you calculate that? How do you put it in data? Right. So, and all these things cannot be done in MIS. You can only put the quantity factors: how many leaves someone took, how many people are buying in this age category. So, all those things only can be done. So, that is one of the major, I feel, major drawback of this. All right. So this is it's mainly into quantitative factor. It ignores the non-quantitative, like morale, the attitude of members, which have a very important effect on the organization. All right. An organization, employees who are motivated, no. The organization with 5 employees can do as much work as an organization which has 10 unmotivated employees, and that's a fact. Okay. So that is very important. The next limitation which it is less useful for making non-programmed decision making. Such type of decisions are not of routine type and require information which may not be available. Of course, not every information is available, and if all that information is not available, it's very difficult to take a call on that. MIS reduced effectiveness is reduced where the culture is to hold information and not share, and because of frequent changes in the top management. Okay, so another 2 important points, which is the limitations of MIS, is when the top management keeps changing. If the top management keeps changing, the policies change, the decisions change, the way of looking at the future changes, and then this MIS is no longer effective. And the second thing is that what I feel is there are a lot of organizations where they have this culture of holding information. Okay, they do not really share the information, and if the information is not shared, if you just try to suppress the information with you, like say for example, there's a marketing department in your organization, and in that marketing department, most of the employees don't come at the 9 a.m. office time, they come at 10 a.m. say, but this department kind of withholds the information, and it does not really bring out that information. So what happens is then the entire MI system does not work, because on your data it is showing that employees are coming at 9 a.m. because the department is withholding that information. Okay, or any other basic information like any customers that you have, the department might not disclose their addresses, for example, to some other department. Then what happens is the MI system does not make sense, because you need to have complete input of data to get a complete information to make a proper decision. Okay, so these are the few limitations of MIS. MIS, I feel, is important from exam perspective as well as knowing about it perspective. Okay, I don't just like to teach through exam perspective, guys, because See, CSEET you might clear, okay, if you just push hard enough for these few months. But it's not my intention to only help you clear CSEET. You should think like a professional from now on. You have to clear your CS executive profession, and sadly, that is just the first step in your professional career. You need to think like a professional, work like a professional from now on. It will come slowly. Okay, you're just 12 pass outs right now, so it will come slowly, but it has to come. And together, I want to work on this with you guys. Okay, so these were the limitations of MIS, and now this chapter of business correspondence is over. If there is any doubts with regards to this chapter, we are anyways going to discuss it live. So see you till then. Bye-bye.